We have a brand new UFC Bantamweight champion. His name is Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling beat Petr Yan at UFC 259 last night. My name is Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. Let's talk about the fight, shall we? I'm not really sure where to start. Shall we talk about the incident, or shall we talk? Let's talk about the fight, and then we can get to the incident. So going into the fight, the big question for me was, we know Aljamain Sterling's movement is awkward. We know his style of striking is unorthodox. And the big question for me was, will Petr Yan be capable of dealing with Aljamain Sterling's style and movement? And I think the answer to that question last night is a resounding yes. Now, Aljamain Sterling obviously started off quite sharp. His output in the first round was very high, a high volume of strikes. He was moving quite frantically. And I think the fast pace that he started with is what caused him issues later on in the fight. Which is why he started to fatigue towards the end of the fight. And when I say end, obviously we didn't get to the fifth round, but you know, we know how the fight ended. But you guys know what I mean. But at the point of where this happened behind me, he was very tired. The thing that I was a little bit surprised with in terms of this fight is I'm used to seeing Aljamain Sterling use the style that he has, but be more effective with it. I'm used to seeing him use his strikes, the way he kind of enters into range and throws unorthodox strikes, be it a punch or a kick, and using that to enable him to take his opponent down. Now, last night what we saw was Aljamain Sterling make attempt after attempt to take Petr Yan down. And I can't remember what the exact numbers are, but they did say it during the broadcast yesterday. It was something like he achieved 1 or 2 takedowns in like 18 or 16 or 15 attempts. Something like that. And actually, the surprising thing was Petr Yan actually took Aljamain Sterling down more than Aljamain Sterling took Petr Yan down. And Petr Yan Sterling's weren't your kind of traditional double legs. They were more kind of trips from the clinch and things of that nature. So it surprised me that, I'll tell you what surprised me about Aljamain Sterling's performance. One, that he fatigued so much, but I understood and I saw why he fatigued. One thing that they didn't really mention quite a lot in the commentary yesterday that I think played a massive factor in Aljamain Sterling's fatigue is, I think when he got knocked down in, I can't remember whether it was the first round or the second round, but I feel like at the point he got knocked down, he was buzzed a lot more than the commentary team let on. And I might be wrong, but I just got the impression that actually he was actually a lot more hurt than they realized, because it seems like his balance was just off after that. And I think that had a big contributing factor to why he was so fatigued as the fight went on, because I think he didn't fully recover from that shot in whichever round it was. And I should have checked this. I should have watched the fight again, but I watched it, last night at 4 or 5 in the morning or whatever it was, and I haven't seen it since. Another thing that surprised me about Aljamain Sterling is, like I say, he usually, I've seen him use his striking to set up his takedowns in the past. And it's kind of like a smooth transition from strike into a takedown. But last night, it was weird. It was kind of disjointed. He would strike and there'd be a pause. And then it was almost like he would just telegraph that, all right, I'm going to try and take you down now. It wasn't in one flow, if that makes sense. And I found that a little bit strange. And I don't know whether it was because he was just hurt or tired, or or just Peter Yan was just there with his hands up blocking everything that Aljamain Sterling was throwing at him. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, but I think I've seen Aljamain Sterling fight a lot better than he did last night in previous fights. And I don't know whether it's to do with Aljamain Sterling himself or whether it's more to do with Peter Yan and Peter Yan's style being a tough nut for Aljamain Sterling to crack. Now, it's all well and good being awkward and unorthodox and trying to cause your opponent troubles with your unorthodox or awkward style. But what I saw last night was Aljamain Sterling almost being awkward and unorthodox for the sake of it. And it wasn't like okay, there's a benefit to being awkward or unorthodox. But if being awkward and unorthodox is ineffective, then it's just wasted movement. And that's what I think we saw a lot of from Aljamain Sterling last night. And the thing with his style of fighting is I feel like it leaves him off balance often. And when you're fighting someone like Peter Yan, who is fundamentally sound and he is strong and aggressive and powerful, then if you're going to be off balance, and Peter Yan, not only is he strong, aggressive and powerful, he's a switch hitter, so he can fight out of orthodox and southpaw stances, he's able to capitalize on his opponent being off balance. And that's why we saw Peter Yan, as the fight wore on, we saw Peter Yan connecting with his strikes more often and with more power. And by the time we got to the fourth round, it was pretty evident that if someone was going to finish the fight, it was going to be Peter Yan. And if the fight was going to go to decision, then Peter Yan would be the one getting his hand raised. Now, Peter Yan himself, he just done what he does in this fight. He stayed there with his high guard, hands up, defensively sound, and he's aggressive. So when he saw an opportunity, he took it with kicks, with punches. And he wasn't scared to enter into a grappling exchange with Aljamain Sterling. And it's weird because they build these guys height-wise as Yan as 5'7.5" and Aljamain Sterling as 5'7", but stood there in front of each other. Aljamain Sterling looked a couple of inches taller than Peter Yan. And Aljamain Sterling's frame and just the size of him, he just looks like someone that should be physically stronger than Peter Yan. But last night, that wasn't the case. Peter Yan, although physically smaller frame-wise and height-wise, he was the bully in the octagon. And I think that has a lot to do with Aljamain Sterling being off balance often. Peter Yan knowing where to and how to distribute his weight when he got into those exchanges and clinches and grappling exchanges. And he often came on top physically, just having Aljamain Sterling hit the deck. So the incident comes in the fourth round where Peter Yan blatantly... I mean, look, there's one thing that you can't argue about, and it's the fact that that strike, no matter what the intention behind the strike was, no matter whether someone in Peter Yan's corner yelled out the instruction to Peter Yan, throw the knee, or whatever's gone down, and however the chain of events happened that led to Peter Yan landing that knee, one thing that is as clear as day is the fact that that knee was illegal because Aljamain Sterling's knees were on the ground. He was a grounded opponent. I think one of his hands may have been on the ground as well. So it's an illegal blow. And then you get to this awkward moment where the referee's called out. And actually, I need to say, obviously, before the blow landed, the referee told Peter Yan that it's a grounded opponent. And I don't know whether that was lost in translation or Peter Yan didn't quite understand what the referee was saying. But, you know, the referee called out the fact that Aljamain Sterling was grounded. during the fight before Peter Yan landed the knee. So what is my opinion on what happened in terms of the strike and the chain of events after the strike? Okay, so first and foremost, kneeing or kicking a grounded opponent in the head, that's a fundamental rule in MMA. Now, we're talking about a sport that doesn't really have a lot of rules when it comes to the actual combat aspect of the sport. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's loads of rules in terms of making weight and, exterior to what happens in the octagon itself. But in terms of the octagon, there's only a handful of things that you need to remember. No biting, no eye gouging, no intentional dick shots, and no kicking an opponent when he's down, no elbows, 12-6. Apart from that, there's not really much else as a fighter you need to know or remember. Now, I can understand there's certain scenarios or situations where you go to knee an opponent who you think is on his way up from being a grounded opponent, and his hand is just about to leave the canvas, or his knee is just about to leave the canvas, and you're trying to time it so you land the knee, so it's a legal blow, but the opponent sees that, okay, he's going to throw the knee, so let me duck back down again, and then it's just an unfortunate mistimed incident. This wasn't that. Aljamain Sterling was blatantly on the ground, and he was showing no signs of someone that was just about to get up. So it's one thing landing an illegal blow, but you have to look at the circumstances in which that blow was landed, and this might be one of the worst examples of an illegal kick to a grounded opponent that I can remember from recent history. So the first thing is this: Peter Yan, as a professional, as a fucking UFC champion, he should know that you can't be kneeing someone that's on the ground in the head. Like, that's a no-no. And then I find it funny, the response, or the I wouldn't say general consensus, because there's different opinions that I've seen out there online. But a lot of people were kind of getting on Aljamain Sterling's back and kind of being like, oh, well, you should have fought on, you're acting, you deserve an Oscar. I saw Henry Cejudo say that. I saw TJ Dillashaw tweet out about how called him at Fake Master on Twitter rather than Funk Master. I found that quite funny because there's actually someone on Twitter called Fake Master. So he just tagged a random person in on the tweet. But like, here's where I am, man. Like, why should Aljamain Sterling fight on in that situation? Why should he continue a fight where his opponent has done something illegal, and with that illegal act, it's given his opponent an advantage over him? It's almost like a double whammy. Like, he does something illegal, so with that illegal maneuver, Yan has gained an advantage because he's clearly hurt Aljamain Sterling. And the outcry, it seems like, from a section of the public is at Aljamain Sterling for not continuing the fight, as opposed to focusing it on Peter Yan for landing a blatantly illegal shot. I can't get my head around that. Personally, I do think Aljamain Sterling, and it's very difficult to make this statement because I don't know for sure, but my gut instinct is telling me that Aljamain Sterling did ham it up a little bit, and he did kind of try to give us the perception that he was more hurt than he actually was. I feel like Aljamain Sterling was being a little bit disingenuous in his post-fight interview, where he kind of was where he felt that the fight was very close and things of that nature, and on the scorecards you can see it was quite close, but I think it's quite obvious that fourth round would have gone to Peter Yan, and if that fourth round went to Peter Yan, he'd be up 3-1 in two of the judges' scorecards, and it would have been 2-2 in the other judges' scorecard. But that's by the by, that doesn't matter. I just feel like deep down inside, Aljamain Sterling was fully aware who had the momentum in that fight. at that point of that strike. But having, like, even if he's aware, and even if he wasn't actually hurt, like, the onus isn't on him at this point, because his opponent is the one that's made the mistake. His opponent is the one that's landed an illegal blow. It's not like an accidental eye poke. It's not like an accidental low blow. As painful as both of those things can and are, can be and are. This was something that like, you can argue an eye poke or a low blow is, that was an accident. But this here, he aimed to knee Aljamain Sterling in the head while he was on the deck. There's no two ways about it. Do you know what I mean? Now, I don't think Petr Yan intentionally kind of tried to get away with it. Like, I don't think he tried to cheat and kind of get away with it. I just think it was just a spur of the moment thing. I just think he just kind of made a mistake. I just think he he at that point he went to land that strike, and then afterwards he probably thought, oh shit, that's illegal, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's a funny one, because we have a new champion, and my prediction was correct, although clearly I didn't predict it to go down the way it did. And if that strike hadn't landed, then Petr Yan would be retaining his title. But yeah, it's a weird, peculiar situation. I can't remember a title fight that has ended in these kind of circumstances in recent memory. Clearly, they're going to have to do it back. I don't know whether Aljamain Sterling, whether he's going to get a medical suspension from the Athletic Commission because of that strike, because obviously, you can argue he was concussed or whatever. Who knows? But in terms of a rematch, Aljamain Sterling has to kind of, sometimes less is more, and he's always just in perpetual motion. And a lot of the time, he's throwing kind of for the sake of throwing. And against Petr Yan, that won't work. And Petr Yan was very, very good at seeing strikes coming, avoiding getting hit, covering up, and responding with his own strikes throughout the fight. So it's a shame Petr Yan lost in the circumstances in which he did. He seemed quite humble after the fight itself, but since then he's been on social media, and I don't know whether it's him or his manager, but there's been posts from his social media calling Aljamain Sterling a clown and an actor and things of that nature. But it is what it is, I suppose, isn't it? What do you guys think about what I've said, and what do you make of the situation? Because like I say, it's odd. It's an odd situation. So please do comment below. Like this video if you've enjoyed it, share it with a friend if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can listen to all of my content in audio only podcast format. Just click the link that applies to the podcast platform that you use personally in my description. I'll catch you guys next time.